Hello everybody and welcome back to another Goblin King video. Today we're going to be looking at an Infernal build order versus Vanguard. So this is Infernal versus Vanguard. What seems to me to be one of the safest and strongest build orders that I've seen so far on the ladder. This build order comes from Snoxtar, who is one of the best Infernals on the ladder right now. And specifically, I think this is a really great build order if you're having trouble playing versus mid to late game Vanguard when they go for that huge mass exo sort of death ball. If Infernal doesn't use the right tools and play safely, it can be really challenging to actually play versus that. Snoxtar right now has something like a 95% win rate versus Vanguard at the highest levels. So yeah, I just wanted to share this with you. This is myself versus Q Pina, who is a Diamond 2 Vanguard player. I don't execute the build order perfectly in this video, but in general, I want you to focus on a few things. In RTS in general, these build orders that I think are really strong, and this is a macro build order, so this is not something that like you need to cheese your opponent and hope that they don't just blind counter you. This is made to take the game to that 10 to 15 minute mark and win right around there. And what I specifically really love about this build order is that it focuses on pushing that map advantage while you're strong, and then playing much more defensively while you're getting those your upgrades and you're a bit weak. So you're going to be looking for some specific timings in the early game to be pushing out with Fiends and with your Brutes, and then towards the mid game, kind of again playing defensively while you get upgrades, and then once again pushing back out and trying to end the game once you have some key upgrades like your Hexen Plague Axes and the Hexen Miasma rather, and the Gaunt Plague Axes. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video. You can see we're going to start immediately by opening up an Iron Vault and immediately making a worker as well. And our goal here is going to be to start creeping the map as soon as possible. Versus Vanguard, I've been favoring not moving out with my Hexen and actually keeping him on Shroud so that he goes up to that 40 white health. As soon as we put that first Iron Vault down, we can take another worker. I head as far down as I can and just make the Iron Vault whenever I hit 100 Luminite. So this whole time, we're going to be creating workers, and we're just going to stay on Luminite for the beginning of the game, and we're going to stay on Luminite predominantly for about the first 3.5 minutes or so. And that's just because we really don't need the Therium right now for what our objectives are. Brutes are really great at taking map advantage, at trying to kill these creep camps quickly. And then once we start our upgrades, that's when we're going to start going for that Therium and playing a bit more defensively. So again, early game, you're essentially just waiting for your Iron Vaults to finish. You're going to take a meat farm. Now I know that there are some burrow farm kind of tricks you can do with this first camp here. I think it's totally fine to build your supply structure here if you want at the first camp, just to get a little bit faster killing of that going. And on maps specifically that have 2 5 minion camps, so that's the health camps currently and the speed camps currently, we're going to do a pretty interesting trick that I saw a laser do in the Tasteless TV tournament. Snoxtar does this as well. And that is we're going to be utilizing our first 25 Animus to go for the Infestation top bar ability. So once that camp is killed, we should have enough money to expand and take a shrine. And we're just non-stop imp producing and non-stop brute production. As soon as our brutes spawn, you actually do want to split them because you immediately get the Animus for doing so. And we're trying to hit 25 as quickly as possible. There's a little bit of delay here, and I don't have this timed out perfectly, so you're going to see some mistakes in this game. But we should have probably gone for the Vision camp first before going for the Speed camp over here. You can see, though, especially with these minions, you're going to want to make sure you cast that Infestation ability first, and let that kind of engage for you. And then just kill it with Fiends. You take the camp, and let's pause right here. So we are looking at a lot of Fiends. I don't have the exact number. It looks like it's somewhere between like 10 and 15. And this is going to give us some really solid map pressure. And what's our goal with these Fiends? Well, we want to go to the other side of the map and we want to make our opponent uncomfortable. Whether that's just taking some of the camps from them, whether that's actually engaging their units, or if they're not playing carefully enough, we might even be able to kill some of their buildings and some of their mobs. On the other side of the map, so on our side, our objective is going to be to just keep doing the same things we've been doing. We want to keep making brutes, we want to keep making imps, and we don't want to get supply block. Those are our goals right now, and we want to creep the rest of the camps on the map that we can. So I get pretty lucky over here with our fiends, and we're able to actually pin down these 3 lancers and get the dog as well. He is going to be in this health camp over here, but it's not too big of a deal. The fiend DPS is enough actually to take out all 3 of these lancers and the dog. Behind this, they are going to be making a sentry post, and what's more important than anything is making sure that you don't lose the fiends. They're much more of a threat to your opponent if they stay alive, right? If I just run in all of my fiends here and lose them to these sentry posts that they're building, like, this damage has already been done. I've already killed the lancers, I killed the dog, and now I've killed the sentry posts. You may be able to go for like an all-in here just off of that. I have a much higher preference of just playing the game safely, sticking to the strategy that I've set for myself, and trying to execute that as cleanly as possible. If I have a really great early game, that just means that the mid and late game are going to be even easier for me. Now, back at home, right about around 3 minutes, 3:30 or so, we're going to go ahead and pull 3 imps off of our Luminite here, which should be 12 out of 12 at this point, and pull them onto Therium, and then make imps onto Therium until we hit about 5 or 6. I think we want to go for 6 here. And then we throw a conclave down as soon as we start mining Therium as well. On the map, what are we doing? Well, we're still running around. We're still trying to get all these creep camps. I've rejoined the fiends with the rest of my army, and that is our primary goal. We're not even really concerned with protecting these camps from them being retaken. All I want to do is kill the minions at them so that we get that initial surge of Luminite and Therium. Right now, in patch 0.0.1, the amount of resources and money that these camps give you is absolutely insane. So utilizing that and trying to even tailor builds around killing the camps on the map as quickly as you can is really important right now. I have a feeling that in some of the upcoming patches that might get tuned down a little bit, but still having map advantage in the early game is never really going to be a bad thing. So as soon as the conclave is finished, we are going to go ahead and put down a ritual chamber, and we should be upgrading our shrine. You can actually wait a little, or sorry, we don't want to upgrade the shrine quite yet. I misspoke. We're actually going to upgrade the shrine once we start this first upgrade. So again, we're just going through, we're clearing the camps. We're going to go ahead and expand to our 3rd now. I'm not too eager to expand to the 3rd early or anything like that. We know from the early game that our opponent is probably not expanding himself. We even have fiends over here to check and see if they are. But I'm not too concerned with winning the game right now. We're starting to wane out of the time that we're going to be strong on the map, and we're going to enter when we're going to start being a bit more defensively. As soon as your ritual chamber finishes, you want to start at Plague Axes and get that shrine tier 2 going. If you time this perfectly, you can actually wait for your shrine upgrade if you want to, but I find it a lot easier to just make them at the same time. Your shrine tier 2 will finish in the current patch before Plague Axes finishes. At this point, you can now start making gaunts. We weren't really making them before, and I actually think there may be opportunity where we could have maybe trickled a few of them in, but I'm really more concerned with spending my Luminite in brutes and in imps. I really just want to focus as much as I can on my economy, and gaunts don't really get us too much in the early game. We don't really have a problem with going around the map and clearing these camps. At this point, once you start your Plague Axes upgrade, you're going to just want to basically play defensively. This is the time where now we're investing our resources instead of into military units, into tech. So that means that our units, if they just decide to continue making units on their side, we're not going to get as good trades as we would have if we just had more units instead of this tech. But this is going to set us up for a really strong mid and late game. So we do throw a Hellforge down. They recently reduced the cost of this and of the Brute upgrade. We're actually really not too concerned with these upgrades here as much. I do think that getting the Brute plus 10 armor upgrade is really valuable, so we do want to go for that. A lot of people right now, I think, are making some big mistakes versus Vanguard as Infernal, and they're really trying to focus on making Magmadons. Magmadons just really are not that great versus Vanguard right now, and I would challenge you to really just limit yourself to making 2, maybe even 3, but more than that, and you're kind of just wasting money. You really want to focus on having a really healthy number of Hexen and Gaunts. So right now, we're just kind of chilling. We're biding our time, and the name of the game here is going to be patience. It's going to take a little bit of time in order for all those upgrades to finish. You just want to make sure that your economy is solid, put down a few extra towers, put some meat farms in front of your bases. That's really all that we're worried about. I do think it's fine to take the camps that are the nearest to your base. So like the Vision camp here, the Health camp over here, maybe even the Therium camp on this map. Obviously, every map's going to be a little bit different. But I'm really not interested in moving past sort of the halfway point on the map. This is not the time to be aggressive. This is the time to bide, to sort of wait, be patient, make sure our upgrades are finished before we start attacking again. I do get Magmadon Trample. It is still good to get. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't think it needs to be rushed. I don't think it needs to be super quick. And we do pop out a couple of Magmadons here. So now that the Plague Axe's upgrade is finished, we are going to go ahead for Reaper Rush. Reaper's Rush is now when I think that we can actually start being on the map a little bit more. We don't want to take a fight yet, though. We're not interested in actually engaging into our opponent, and if we do have to fight them, we're really wanting to make sure it's a defensive one that we're taking on our side of the map with Shroud Stones and with meat farms messing up the AI as much as possible. But because we have that Reaper's Rush, we can get our key units, which are the Gaunts, out of there in time, and if we really needed to, we could split the Fiends. Expect to lose Magmadons in any of the fights that you go for. So really just don't get attached to this unit very much. Our end goal of upgrades, when can I actually be aggressive and start to try to go win the game? It is Hexen Miasma right now. Miasma is so absolutely like essential and key to killing Vanguard. You're just going to have a really hard time getting a successful fight if you're not making Miasma at all. Gaunts do barely any damage to Lancers, and unless you catch your opponent in a really, really bad position, you're not going to be able to jump on those Exos safely. Lancers frontline really, really well. So we finished the first Hexen upgrade, and I actually do make a pretty big mistake this game. As you can see, my Ritual Chamber is not immediately upgrading that Hexen upgrade. I just told you how key it is, and I'm actually going to be taking a fight here without it, and you're going to see how poorly it goes versus when I do have Miasma. So I'm feeling confident. In my mind, I'm going great. All my upgrades are ticking away. I'm doing fantastically. At some point, once you have the floating money, feel free to throw down a Twilight Spire, go for that tier 3, and then we can start getting those Hellborn upgrades. Hellborns are sort of the later game key unit for your army besides Miasma. Obviously, having access to the Flayed Dragon as well is going to be really, really good. But you can see exactly how bad of a mistake this is here pretty soon. Still, have not started researching Miasma here. We go for a 4th base as well. We've kept tabs on our opponent's bases so far, so we're pretty familiar, and we know that we're doing pretty well here, so we're feeling pretty confident in the game so far. Again, that early game just really set us up nicely. Yeah, just watching how long it takes for me to make Miasma off of my Ritual Chamber is so painful. It's always so cringe to watch your own replays and see the mistakes you make. But we're not perfect people. We're going to make mistakes. So just forgive yourself in advance before you watch your own stuff. There we go. Congratulations, Apoptosis. You actually started the Hexen training. You're going to see here, there is a fight that we take this game without it, and then there's a fight that we take with it. You're just going to see a night and day difference. Our army is looking really, really solid, though. We have a really healthy number of Gaunts, and we're starting to get Hellborn as well. We started to upgrade our Elder Shrine. That's almost actually finished at tier 3. And once you have that, feel free to get all those juicy tier 3 upgrades. The Hellborn one in particular is going to be really, really strong, so I recommend going for that one first before anything else. So here's that fight I was talking about. We don't have Miasma right now. I'll go ahead and click into the structure so you can see how long it's going to take me. But we just don't have anything to do. Obviously, I've put a lot of resources in my Hexen here. Once you start that first upgrade, I'd actually go up to about 8 to 10 Hexen. It may sound like a lot, but it'll make sense once we start those fights. I don't really have a choice here. I have to back up. Magmadons are completely worthless versus Exos in the early game. Our Hellborn are putting out some good damage, but again, I'm just not interested in taking a fight here. I do have tabs on my upgrade. I realize in the game that I didn't make it for so long, so I'm literally now just watching it, trying to hope that it finishes soon. And so we're about to take a fight here. I actually take it a little bit too quickly. So this fight's going to look a little bit awkward, but Miasma will proc during this fight, and the fight will turn very quickly. Q-Pina does well, though. They see that there's no Miasma, so they're happy to take this fight here. As soon as it finishes, though, boom, 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 down go all the Miasmas. Don't do this in your fights. We literally throw down 4 of them in a row here. It looks very cool, but it's actually really not what you're wanting to do. Only put down about 2 at a time, because you need to chain your Hexen forward. Right now, the Hexen are a little bit awkward to micro. You have to individually click on each of them in order to stop them. You can't just click them all to stop as well. Okay, so now that we have Miasma, that first fight did not go super well for us. We actually traded pretty ineffectively here. You can see my Magmadons are all dead. I have only a few Brutes remaining, but I still have primarily Gaunts and all my Hellborns and my Hexen. I didn't lose many of those guys, so I'm feeling still pretty confident about the fight overall. We're getting the Hellborn upgrade, and now we're entering the sort of late game. We want to win before they go for the carrier unit, the Helo Carrier. Helo Carrier. Helo Carrier? Helo Carrier. Sounds like it should be Helo Carrier. And so, because if they get that, we're going to have a much harder time. You're going to have to go for Shadow Flyers. You're going to have to micro the Flayed Dragon really well. And if we had Miasma during those first fights here, we probably had enough power to end the game right then and there. Now, though, because it's taken me so long, we actually do save up enough money to get a Flayed Dragon, and I'm interested in taking a fight now that my Hellborn research is finished up too. That's going to be finishing, and we're going to be going for the end of the game here. No Magmadons in my army, which is a little bit of a mistake. We should have at least 2. Magmadons are pretty good for fighting versus Lancers, but that's about their only good use case. They're also pretty nice APM tax for Exos, because Vanguards are so scared of them that no matter where they are and what they're doing, they seemingly always pick them out of the fight. They are pretty nice to pick off for Vanguard, though, because if they do start hitting on the Exos, they will start falling really quickly. Hexen right now are really hard for them to actually deal with, because their long-range Miasma AoE is really tough. All right, so we're going to start pushing forward here. Again, we're sort of on a clock. We don't want them to get to the carrier unit. So now we're going to start fighting. And this is the way that we want to kind of take this engagement. Pop down 2 Miasmas here and slowly push forward until you back them into a corner. I'll just stop talking and kind of let the fight take over here. So because of the lack of our Magmadons, our front line actually dies pretty quickly here, and we're going to bleed out of quite a lot of our units, but this actually showcases exactly how strong Miasma is. If you look at this fight right now, obviously the kind of graphics kind of screw up a little bit. All we have left is the Flayed Dragon, some Hellborns, and some Miasma going. But a lot of these units are really wounded. Now, my opponent here sees the lack of my units and thinks, man, I can just go ahead and clear this out and then go win the game. But watch what happens just and see how strong Miasma is exactly. It's like a cascade of fiends, man. Once those fiends start proccing, there's just no end to them. So even though that fight didn't look wonderfully for me, and I really do blame that on my lack of the 2 Magmadons, as I mentioned earlier on, and maybe even having a lot of Brutes there, we were able to clean that fight up pretty nicely because we had the Flayed Dragon and because we had the Hexen there. If your opponent ever decides to fight in Miasma, really you're just trying to bank for time. Miasma deals so much damage and goes through armor, so you really don't have to worry too much about any of their defenses. They're gonna die in the same amount of time. Now at this point, we're just cleaning up the rest of the game. We still have all of our important units alive, the Flayed Dragons, and now our support units have arrived. Not putting down a Shroud Stone in that first fight was definitely a bit of a mistake there. That probably could have saved a lot of my units and made that fight look even more convincing. So make sure you're putting that down and utilizing that. We have 304 Animus. We should be spending our top bar abilities all the time. And that's it. That's the GG, guys. Now, of course, did I make mistakes in this game? Absolutely. In fact, we made some pretty critical ones. Not researching that Hexen master training quickly enough. And I think I did also jump onto Therium a little bit sooner than I needed to, which resulted in us kind of having a lopsided Therium to Luminite amount, which you never really want to encounter there. But even with an imperfect game, guys, you can see exactly how strong this build is, how strong this strategy is. I've actually been doing this in every single one of my matchups just to see how strong it actually is, and it's been performing really well. Though it is tailored, I think, to play against Vanguard, I think this does actually shockingly well versus Celestials and versus Infernal as well. There are some timing attacks that those other 2 factions can do that are pretty strong compared to this one. But overall, I think that this is an absolutely insane way to play versus Vanguard as Infernal. So just to go over those sort of key notes again, to kind of give you a checklist here at the end of the game and what you're trying to accomplish. In the early game, drop down 2 iron vaults basically immediately and try and creep the map as quickly as you can. If there are 2 resource camps that have 5 units, so right now that's the health camp and the speed camp, try to bank up 25 animus before you engage the second one so that you can get a huge sort of supercharge of fiends to run across the map and bully your opponent off of their camps and make them afraid of moving out while you scoop up the rest of the camps. Once you start up your ritual chamber, right at about 3:30, again, you're going to be going on Ethereum. Make the conclave at that time as well. Make the ritual chamber right afterwards, and as soon as that goes down, you're wanting to play more defensively as you research plague axes and you get your tier 2 shrine going. This is going to be a bit of a patient sort of waiting game. It's going to take you probably about 3 minutes to get all the upgrades that you want, but trust me, it's going to pay off. Make sure you're putting down meat farms and shroud stones in front of your bases so that you can stay protected on 3 bases there. As soon as Plague Axis is done, get the Reaper's Rush. As soon as that's done, get all the way up to that Hexen Miasma training. Once you have that, you should probably have Trample at that point. And with a couple of Magmadons, you want to get up to about 8 to 10 Hexen. I like making those Hexen while I'm waiting for the upgrades so that their energy has time to fill back up and you're going into battle with all the ammunition that they need. At that point, once you have Miasma and a pretty strong-looking army, don't be afraid to take a fight across the map. You're trying to bully and you're trying to actively win before they get to their carrier ships. Throw in some Hellborn in a tier 3, get that Hellborn upgrade, and if you can afford it, get a Flayed Dragon, and GG the game out. If this was helpful for you guys, let me know down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and check me out on Twitch. Links for that are going to be down below as well. I appreciate you guys very much, and I hope you're enjoying the Stormgate content, and specifically this Infernal build order that I think is insanely, insanely strong right now. So enjoy it, take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Good luck, have fun.